Hello class, how are you doing? Today we are going to start our first drawing and I'm going to go through a lot of the introductions for you, a lot of the commands. As you get into AutoCAD, you will find that it is a very powerful tool, a very fun tool to use. You'll also find out that there are a few basic commands that if you learn these few basic commands that you can do an awful lot with AutoCAD. And we're going to learn those basic commands. Bottom line is, if you know 5 to 6 commands, you can do a lot of the work within AutoCAD, and we're going to make sure you know those very, very well. The drawing that we're going to do today is called the guide block. Now, I've made a copy and I put it in the files section in Canvas for you to look at. So you need to go ahead and either put that on your screen or make a copy of it, whatever, so you can refer back to it. But anyway, we're going to start up AutoCAD. So I've already started up AutoCAD and come to the main page here. Now also, I'm going to put a template file in the files section for you tomorrow. I've got to find out where I saved it, but we're going to start drawing anyway because I want to get moving. I will also be down to the school tomorrow from 8 to 11, and then every Friday from 8 to 11 also. So Tuesdays and Fridays, I'll be down to the school. We'll be in room 202. So if you want to come in, you can get some additional help. If you want to come in and just work, whatever, you're welcome to come in. We do have room 202 reserved for that time slot for our class. So to begin with, I want you to go to the big A. When I say the big A online, I'm just talking about the big A up in the upper left-hand corner, and then hit New, and it's going to come up, and just hit Open right here. So we're just going to open a plain drawing, and I'm going to show you how to set up the limits first of all. So in AutoCAD, all the commands are just as you would normally talk to someone else. If I want to draw a line, that's the line command. If I want to draw a circle, it's the circle command. If I want to set up layers, we use the layer command and so forth like there. So it's makes very much sense to you, just as you talk to someone else. So first of all, I'm going to set up the layers. I mean the limits. And so the first command we're going to learn is the limits command. And limits just our screen is going to represent something. We're going to set our screen so it represents a B-size sheet of paper. Now the measurements for a B-size sheet of paper are 17 inches long, 11 inches tall. So we're going to give the X coordinate first and then the Y, so it'd be 17, 11. So to do that, all you have to do is start typing limits, LIMITS, and hit enter. Okay, now if you look right down here at the bottom of the screen, it says limits specify lower left-hand corner. It should say 00. That's what you wanted. I want you to hit enter. Now it says specify the upper right-hand corner. And it says 12 by 9 is what the default is. But we want that to be 17, 11. So go 17, 11 and hit enter. So we just changed our upper right to 17 by 11. So we're going to be drawing in a B-size sheet of paper. Now, if you'll notice, you can see the grid. It just goes on forever. It goes on indefinitely. What we're going to do is we're going to just have the grid represented in the area that we set our limits to. So if you'll go down here to the bottom of the screen, the right-hand side of the screen over here, and the very first crisscross is the grid mode. The next one is the snap mode. So grid is F7, snap is F9. So those we can actually toggle on our grid and snap by using F7 or F9. But what I want you to do is just put your cursor over either one of those and right click on your cursor and hit snap settings. And it will bring up this window right here, okay? Now what we want to do, there's only one little step we want to do on here is if you go down to grid behavior where it says display grid beyond limits, uncheck that and hit OK. So now if you look at your screen, what we have done is we have a grid in a rectangle that is 17 inches long, 11 inches tall. Okay, so now we know where to draw, because before the grid just went on forever and we didn't really know. Okay, so that's the first command. The next command that we're going to learn is we're going to set up some layers. Okay, so what do you think the name for the layers command is? It's layer. Okay, now we're going to set up 4 layers. We're going to use 4 layers to work with. So let's type in layer, A-Y-E-R. Okay, and it's going to bring up this little box right here. And I'll try to pull that box down here in the middle of the screen so you can see it. That's the layer box. So right now we have one layer. It's called 0. That's the name of the layer. So we're going to create 4 new layers. The 4 layers that we're going to create are object, hidden, center, and dimension. We're going to create those 4 layers. And so to do that with, and then I'm going to give you all the information you need to set it up and set the parameters. So if you'll just kind of follow through with me, you'll help set this up. Now, once we have this all set up, we're going to create a template file. And you don't have to do this every time, but I like students to do this a couple of times, because if we make a template file right off the bat, you will never know remember how to create layers if you don't do it a couple of times. So we're going to do it a couple of times just so you get the experience of doing it, okay? So in the layer dialog box right here, you see these 4 icons right across here? There is a new layer. There's a new layer, viewport frozen. There's a delete layer, and there is a set current layer. Those 4 icons are what we need to know to set up our layers. So we're going to create a new layer. So I want you to pick on that first icon that says new layer. So if you click here, what it did, it added a whole new row right here in the layer command. So we're going to give this, first of all, we're going to get a name, and then we're going to change some other defaults here. So we're going to call our first layer object. Now, I like to make all these capital letters. If you don't want to, you don't have to, but it just makes sense for me. So object. So we just called it object right here. Okay. Now, the nice thing is we can give it a color right here. So if you want to give it a color, click on that box right underneath the color one right there, and it's going to bring up this color palette right here. Now from here, you can pick the color that you want to use. Okay. Now I recommend that you start using these basic colors here. First of all, we can use all these other combination colors, but I would pick these basic colors first to use. Okay. So for my object, I am going to pick yellow, okay? And then hit OK. So see right here now on my object layer, my color is yellow. My line type is a continuous line. And now I'm going to change my line weight because we want to specify different line weights for different types of lines. The line weight that we're going to use right now, if you hit default right here, is going to be 0.5 mm. Okay, so click 0.5 mm and hit OK. Okay, so we've just generated our first layer. We called it object. We gave it a color of yellow. It has a line type of continuous and a line weight of 0.5. That's all you have to do. So that's our first layer. Now we're going to add a hidden layer. Okay, so first thing we do is go up to new layer. We're going to call it hidden, H-I-D-D-E-N. Now we're going to change the color. We're going to make this hidden red. Okay, hit OK, so hidden becomes red. Okay, now this is where it gets a little tricky. Under line type, we want this to become a hidden line. So if you hit continuous right here, right now we only have one line type that's loaded. So we need to go and load all of AutoCAD's default line types. So hit load right here. Now scroll down to the H's. You will see that there are three options for hidden. Hidden, hidden to, and hidden times two. What I want you to use is the hidden two, not just the hidden, just the hidden two. Not the times two, the middle one, hidden two. That one right there. And hit OK. So now it put it in our available line types that we can choose from. Okay. Now to make this active, you got to click on hidden two and then hit OK. So now the line type over here on our hidden layer becomes hidden two. Okay. Now we got to give it a line type. Our hidden line is a little bit thinner than our object line. So we're going to make our line weight for our hidden line at 0.4, right there, 0.4, and hit OK. So we've generated our object layer, our hidden layer, and now what we're going to do is we're going to create a center line layer and a dimension layer, and then we're going to start being able to draw our drawing. So let's create a new layer right here. So just go new layer. Let's call this one center, C-E-N-T-E-R. Okay, let's give it a color. We don't want to use yellow or red, but I can use this cyan color right here, this light blue color. Hit OK, so it becomes cyan. The line type now, I'm going to make it continuous because I'm going to show you how to create a textbook center line, not a CAD generated center line, but a textbook center line. And then hit OK. So it becomes continuous. The line weight now for a center line, we're going to make 0.3. Okay. Then hit OK. So we've generated another. See how easy these layers are? You just click new layer, give it a name, and fill out some variables. Color, line type, and line weight are the main things you need to worry about. Okay, so let's create our dimension layer. So let's go to new layer. Let's call it dimension, D-I-M-E-N-S, dimension. That is how you spell dimension. Okay, a lot of students will spell it D-E-M, but it's D-I-M. Okay, let's give it a color. I'm going to use green for this one here and hit OK. So my dimension layer is green. It's going to be a continuous line type, and the weight of it's going to be 0.3 because when you dimension, there are three dimension lines. You have an extension line, a dimension line, a center line, and a leader. And I'll show you what those are as we do the drawing more. But all four of those lines are the same type of line. That's why we give them the same line weight. We can give them different colors, but the line weight is going to be the same. So when you print it out, it's going to be the same density or thickness of line. Okay, those are the four layers. Pretty simple, isn't it? So we're ready to start drawing. So let's close this out right here. Okay, now we're ready to start doing our drawing. Now I'm going to show you a couple of ways that should make this drawing a very, very simple drawing for you to do. And hopefully it'll save you a lot of time and a lot of headache. Now, if you opt to do it a little different, that's fine with me. Bottom line, we want to get the same results. Just because I do it one way does not mean that you have to do it the way that I do it. You can do it any way that you would prefer. Again, as we get the same results. So first of all, I'm going to draw a big rectangle within my limits. And you can see the limits right here. So I'm going to go up here to the rectangle command. It's right under annotate, and if you just put your cursor on the command and hesitate for a minute, you'll see rectangle. Now, the nice thing about it is you can hit F1 for help, and it actually shows you how to use the command. Every one of these commands have online help for you. So we're just going to draw a rectangle. Now, it tells you what to do as you draw. So if you look at the cursor right there, it specifies first corner point. I'm going to go up here, being in my grid, and pick a point. Don't hold it down and drag it. Pick and release, and I'm going to pull it down somewhere down here to the other side. So I've just drawn a rectangle. Now, the thing about this rectangle right now is, if you notice here on the layer, my current layer is 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this rectangle right here. I'm going to go up to my layer tab right here, hit the down arrow key, and I'm going to hit object. Okay, so I just changed it to my object layer. Now, as I draw more lines, you can see it's still defaulting at O. So I'm going to hit here. I'm going to hit object as my current layer. Okay. Now, like I say, you might wonder what drawing this big rectangle is all about, but I will show you in just a minute. If you look at this rectangle, if you put your cursor over any segment of that rectangle, the whole rectangle becomes highlighted, doesn't it? What we want to do is we want to explode this rectangle. We want to break it up into 4 separate entities. So right underneath the pencil up here, which is the erase, is the explode command. Now you can either pick explode here, or you can just start typing explode. If I start typing explode, it's EX. You can see explode right there. There's your command also. So let's pick explode. And what does it say to do it? Select objects. So anytime you select objects, once you select all the objects you want, you just hit enter to resume the command. So I'm going to come up here, and I'm just going to pick on that rectangle and hit enter. Now, if I put my cursor over it, see each line now, each side of that rectangle is a separate line. So it is no longer a continuous one entity. It's 4 different entities that make up that rectangle. Now, if you look at the drawing that I gave you, now remember, we're doing the guide block, okay? What we need to know is we need to draw the front view, the top view, and the right side view. Now, there's a couple of assignments that I will give to you, and I'll post those in the files tab to kind of help you out with this, but I want to just get going here. So our front view is going to be right in this area right here. Our top view is going to be right above it, and our right side view is going to be directly to the right of the front view. So our right side of view be right here. Now, we want to start out by drawing our 3 principal measurements, or height, width, and depth. So if you look at that drawing, the height is equal to 1.5. Okay, does that make sense? Our width is equal to 5. And our depth is equal to 2.5. Do you see those 3 measurements? Height, width, and depth, if you look on the drawing. Okay, so we're going to get our boxes first of all. Now in the front view, if you look at an object from a front view, we're going to see the height and the width right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you to the most commonly used command, and it's a command that you'll love. It's called the offset command. Now we could start typing offset, or if you look right underneath the explode button right here, it's called offset. So I'm going to come up here and just click offset. Now, if you look there, all you have to do is to read the prompt by the cursor. It says specify offset distance. So what distance do we want to offset? What we're going to do is I'm going to offset the width. Okay, now the width is 5, right? So I want you to hit 5, enter. Now it says select object to offset. We want to offset this line here coming over, because that will give us the width of our front view and our top view. So just click this line here and just come over here anywhere on this side and click it. So that measurement from there to there is 5. Okay. Now, I could keep on offsetting if everything else was 5, but it's not. The height is 1.5. So if you hit the space bar once, it ends the command, hit the space bar once again, and it repeats it. Now, you could end it and then go back into the offset if you wanted to, but why do it? Why not repeat the command? So if you move it over here now, specify offset distance, we want the height. Now the height is 1.5, so let's specify 1.5. Hit enter. Now it says specify object offset. We want to offset this bottom line coming up. So there's my front view box. It's 1.5 inches high by 5 wide. So I'm just trying to get these boxes that I can draw within. Okay, now, so we've done our height, we've done our width. Now we have to give our depth right here. So hit the space bar once to end it, hit it again to repeat it. Now type in 2.5. Hit enter, and I'm going to offset this line here, come in, and the top and come down. So if you look at an object from the right side, it's going to be a certain depth. And if we look at it from the top, it's the same depth. Okay. Now, if you have problems with this, again, I'll go over this in person with you tomorrow and Friday and work with you on this and help you get this set up. So if you have problems, feel free to come in. Use me as much as you can on those Tuesdays and Thursdays, Tuesdays and Fridays, I'm sorry. It sure makes the day go a lot quicker if I can just be constantly helping students ask questions. Okay, the next step that we're going to do now is we want to trim out all of these things. So the commands we've used so far then is we use rectangle to draw the rectangle originally. We used explode to explode the rectangle. And then we used offset to go ahead and create our blocks to actually physically draw our front view, our top view, and our right side view in. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use trim to get rid of these lines in between here. Okay, so I'm going to hit the space bar. Now that ends all the commands. Now I can start a new command. So if you want trim, right next to the pencil up there at the very top, it says trim. Now, to find the shortcut, just start typing trim, T. So trim is TR. Do you see the shortcut? So TR, enter. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick here and I'm going to come down just like that. You can hit the space bar once, space bar again, and I'm going to come across here and click there. I just trimmed those lines out. Now you could pick each line individually. Some of you might go do like this. I'm going to hit undo. Some of you would go TR, whoops, undo again, redo. Okay, now TR, enter. So you might say, well, I'm going to trim that one. See, you could pick each one here, or you could just go like that. To me, that's a lot quicker. Okay, so hit enter. That ends the command. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I have my front view box to draw, my top and my right side view, and this is a critical box. And I'll show you how to use this box here in drawing your drawing here in just a few minutes. Now, like I say, we're going to go through and we're going to draw this complete drawing, and we're going to actually dimension it too. So we're going to add dimensions and so forth like that. Okay, but what I want to do is the older you get, the larger you want to see things on the screen. So I'm going to move these in. Now, as you move these in, they have to keep aligned. The right side has to be directly to the right side. It cannot be misaligned from here. So the next command that we're going to learn is the move command. Okay, so that's the name of the command, move. So if I start typing M, so M is a shortcut for move. So all we have to do is hit M, enter. And then it says select objects. I'm going to build a window around these, the right side view and my box up there. Click there. I'm finished selecting objects. So now I hit enter. Now it says specify base point. Now your base point can be anywhere on the screen. It does not have to be on an object. I'm just going to pick a point about right here and move it in. Now look, I could actually get those misaligned, couldn't I? But if I hit F8, F8 is ortho. If I hit F8 again, see what I can toggle with F8. So I'm going to move this into here, space bar, and then I'm going to pick the top two views, space bar, and move these down. But remember, my ortho is on, so I'm going to move those down to there. Now I'm just holding down the scroll button and I can drag it around. And I'm going to scroll it up here. Okay, so now what I can do is I see my boxes a little bit larger, they're closer together. So as I start drawing, it makes it easier for me to see because I'm going to draw each feature in a view. Now I mentioned feature. Okay, so a feature is anything like a notch, a circle, a chamfer, a fillet, radius, something that is a machinist would cut out. So if you look at the guide block, there's a big notch in the very top of it, there's a notch in the bottom of it, and then there's two holes. So we're going to call this, say this is having 3 features. Do you see those features? Now, to dimensioning becomes very simple if you dimension by features. We need to draw this by features. So what I want you to do is I want you to first of all decide which feature are you going to draw first. Now you have to think about how a machinist would do it, and we'll talk a little bit about this later on. We'll go over how a machinist would approach building this part. So we're going to create that notch in the front view that just comes down like this right here. Do you see that notch? Okay, we're going to draw it in the view that shows it true size and shape. So when I say true size and shape, we can add all the dimensions to build it in one view. So if you look at that, this notch comes over a 1/2 inch, down a 1/2 inch, over a 1/2 inch. So it's going to create that shape right there. Does that make sense? So I'm going to go back to my offset command. Remember I said this offset was going to be one of your best friends in AutoCAD? It is, truly. So go to offset. Now, if you look at your drawing, the offset distance is going to be 0.5. So enter 0.5. We're going to click this line here and come in, this line here and come down, and this line here and come over. Now we got to do a little trimming because we want this to be like this right here. We want to get rid of this and this, this and this, and this up here. So I'm going to show you a couple of different ways of doing that. I'm going to let you choose which way you want to use it. So there's TR. I'm going to trim that out. I want to trim that and that and that and that. Does that make sense? How I got that? Now I'm going to show you another way of doing it if you want to. So I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to hit undo. So I'm going to get all this back in. Let's see. I'm going to trim this out here, but then I'm going to show you another way to trim this up right here. Okay, this is a really neat method and something you can get used to. Now, if you have a problem with it, that's fine. I'll explain it, but I'm going to use what's called the fillet command. Now, the fillet command can be found right underneath the trim command up here, or again, you can just start typing fillet. Okay, so F is a shortcut for fill, so hit enter. Now, if you'll notice down here, our radius is set to 0. We need the radius set to 0. So I'm going to hit enter, and then I'm going to, let's hit fillet. Select object. I'm going to click there and there, space bar, and I'm going to click here and here. Here. So you can see that fillet will trim, it'll extend at the same time. So you can do that either way. Now again, if you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask me. You can call me on my cell phone. Be happy to help you out. Okay, now I'm finished, so hit escape or spacebar. A couple of ways to end your command. Okay, that's our first feature. Now we have to draw this feature in the other two views, our top view and our right side view. So our top view, we're going to project. It's called orthographic projection because you can project everything around. That's why you have to keep these views in a line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw me a line from this point here, this edge here, straight up here. Now remember, my ortho is on. If I hit F8, I can turn that on, but if I hit F8 again, it turns it on. So I'm going to go up here, going to hit the space bar to end the command, the space bar to repeat it. And then I'm going to do here, coming up here and hit the space bar once. Now I've got to trim this out. So I'm going to go TR for trim. I'm going to pick this line here, and this line here, and this line here, and this line here. So you can see that that is the top view. Now, if you only had the top view without the front view, could you tell what this looked like? Would you know that this is square, or could it be beveled down around here, or could it be a bevel? Okay, you don't know because it doesn't give you all the information to see it true size and shape, but the front view does. Now we got to finish this in our right side view. So I'm going to draw me a line now from here, coming over to here. Now, we talked about the trim command, didn't we? So trim is TR, and I can trim this off and that off there. But how do I get this line over to here? If I were to talk to you, and I would probably say, I want to extend that line. Do not draw another line. Keep one line with no line segments. So if we extend it, typing EX is a shortcut for extend. Do you see how to find these? So EX, enter. All you have to do is click on that line and hit enter. Now that becomes one line segment from there to there, not two. We just extended the line. Now, if you look at this from the right side view, we're seeing this surface here, but from the right side view, it's hidden from our view. So this has to become a hidden line. So to make that a hidden line, there's a couple of ways, and I'll show you different ways as I do. I don't want you to get stagnant in thinking there's only one way to draw things. So click on that line right there, and up here where it says Object, hit the down arrow key and hit Hidden right there, and then hit Escape. Okay, so it put a red hidden line in there. Okay, now that is feature number one, all finished. It's finished, completely drawn in all three views. Now remember, we are not drawing in this view, but I projected from here up to here and from here over to here, okay? Now let's do our next feature. So when I dimension it, I'm going to dimension that feature in the view that shows it true size and shape, which is my front view. So all the dimensions are going to be off my front view. That's what's called feature-based dimensioning. And if you learn this when you get into 3D modeling and other things, it will make life so much easier for you. So the notch that goes in the bottom of this is going to be shown right here. True size and shape in our right side view. Does that make sense to you? So we're going to draw this in our right side view, which means that we'll be dimensioning that feature in our right side view. So if you look at the drawing, it's a 1/2 inch over, a 1/2 inch up, and a 1/2 inch over this way. So let's go to offset. Offset. Now you can see the default distance is a 1/2 inch, so I don't have to retype. All I have to hit is enter. And then I'm going to pick this line here and come over, this line here and come up, and this line here and come over. So that's our notch right there. So we got to get rid of all these additional lines, okay? So we can trim. I can click there and there and there and there, 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 and there. So you can see that notch in the right side view. So That shows me the true size and shape of that notch. Now let's draw that notch in the front view. So I'm going to be looking at this with the notches. This is, pretend that this is just folded around 90 degrees right around here. So this would be kind of right there. So I'm going to draw me a line now from here over to here. I'm going to extend that line over to there. I'm going to trim it now and get rid of this one and that line right there. So I have a line there. Do you see how I projected it across? Again, that's why it's called orthographic projection. Now, this line here is not visible as you look at from the front view. It's back in the middle of here. So this becomes a hidden line right here. So let's click on the line and we'll go up here, hit the down arrow key and hit hidden right there. Okay, and then hit escape. So our front view is finished. Now we got to do the top view, and this is where we're going to use this box right here. In our right side view, front view and right side view, we can project horizontally straight across, right? From our front view, we can project straight up. But how do I get from here up to here? Because remember, this is the same depth as this measurement right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a diagonal line from the bottom corner to the top corner. And that little box means that you're going to the end point. And I'll show you how to pick those snaps here in just a minute. Okay, so now to get this line coming across here, I'm going to draw me a line from this edge here up to here, space, space. Where it crosses that line, I'm going to project it over. So see how I projected from the right side to the top view to get this measurement, which is that measurement right there. So again, I'm going to start drawing from here up to here, space, space, and then from here over to here. Okay, do you see how I projected that around? Okay, now we got to clean this up. So we're going to go to trim, and I'm just going to pick a line there. We'll pick a line here. Now, I can erase these other lines if I want to now. But before I do that, what kind of line are these two lines here going to be? If I'm looking down from the top of it, I don't see this notch from the top. So these lines here now become hidden line, and you can pick as many lines as you want to. So let's go down here and hit hidden. Okay. So now let's erase. We haven't even talked about the erase command, have we? The shortcut for erase is just E. So E, enter. Pick the lines you want to erase and just click them. Okay. So you can see now that we've added the two features in our drawing. Feature number 1, feature number 2. Okay. Feature number 3 now becomes our holes. Okay. Now I'm going to show you an awful lot of stuff on the holes to maybe make it a little easier for you as you do a drawing. So our holes, which view, first of all, are we going to see them true size and shape? They're going to be circles in the top view. Here, they're going to be lines here. So I'm going to draw them in the top view right here. Now, if there's true size and shape in the top view, that means I have to dimension in them in the top view also. Okay, so if you look at your drawing, we know that that first hole right there, let's see if I can read this here, is over 1.25. So I'm going to offset this line here over 1.25. Then I'm going to come over another 1.5 inches, and that's going to give me the distance this way to locate my hole first of all. So I'm going to go to offset 1.25. I'm going to create this line here, come over, space, space. Now my offset distance has to be 1.5. So enter 1.5 and then come from here over. So there's my two vertical distances over. Now that hole is in the middle of this line. So I'm going to draw me a line now from the midpoint And if I hesitate, you see where it says midpoint, it gives you a little triangle there over to the midpoint there. So I found my center points to draw those circles. Now I'm just going to draw those two circles. Now when I draw circles, there are multiple ways that I can draw circles. And I'll show you just a couple of those. But if you look at the drawing, the measurements for those circles are a diameter of 0.75, correct? So diameter 0.75, not a radius, it's a diameter. So if you go up to the circle command, it's right the third icon over at the very top left-hand corner, hit the down arrow key. You can see that we can draw a circle with a center radius, center diameter, a 2-point circle, a 3-point circle, a tan-tan radius, and a tan-tan tangent circle. Okay, so we know our center point, right? So, and we know what our diameter is, so we're going to use center diameter circle. So hit center diameter. Then what does it say to do? Specify center point for circle. Well, that right there at the midpoint will work. It's midpoint of this line. Intersection would work also, midpoint intersection. Click there. Now it says specify diameter. Okay, the diameter is 0.75. So type in 0.75. You just drew a 0.75 diameter circle. Now we need another one of those right here, don't we? So hit the space bar, specify center point, click there. Now it says specify the radius of the circle, but we want diameter, so just hit D, enter. Now it's asking us for the diameter, which is 0.75. The reason that it does this is AutoCAD will default back to its default setting, and the default setting for a circle in AutoCAD is center radius, not center diameter. So you have to be careful with it. But if you draw and it becomes double size or half size, you just have to go back and change it. Okay, so now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to erase these other lines right here for now. Okay, so I'm just going to erase that line and this line and this line here. Now I'm going to show you something that will be a little tedious, but once you do it, you can use it for life if you want to. I am not going to require that you use this center line, but it's going to teach you a couple of new commands. So I'm going to come off to the side here. See, I'm just moving that kind of off to the screen. I'm going to draw me a 1-inch diameter circle. So if you'll go up to the circle, center diameter, just pick a point and then type in 1. There's a 1-inch diameter circle. Okay, now, as you know, when I've been snapping, I've been going to like an endpoint, a midpoint, intersection. The way you find those and set those up is the new command, and it's called OSNAP. Just OSNAP. OSNAP, and hit enter. It's going to bring up this dialog box. And right here, I can have endpoint. So an endpoint is going to be the square, midpoint is going to be a rectangle, center is going to be a circle, quadrant is going to be a diamond. Here's intersection, tangent's going to be a circle with a line over it. That's going to be the little icon to tell you when you put your cursor there what you're after. Okay, so I'm just going to hit OK. If these don't show up, click them. Okay, hit OK. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line from this quadrant over to this quadrant. It's just side to side. Spacebar, spacebar again. I'm going to draw a quadrant, a line down from the top down here. So I used my quadrant points. Does that make sense? Once you have this, now I want you to erase this circle right here. So E, enter. So pick the circle. We have two lines right here. Now, I want you to bear with me because I'm going to teach you a very, very valuable tool and new command. And so I just decided to use it this way. Okay, a textbook center line has an 1/8 of an inch dash in the center with a 1/16 inch gap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw me an 1/8 inch diameter circle right there with this as my center point, first of all. So I'm going to go center, diameter, come down here. I'm going to pick that. See the little triangle? That's for midpoint. And then I'm going to type in 1/8 of an inch, which is 0.125. Hit enter. So that's an 1/8 of an inch across. So from the center out here would be a 1/16 because that's half of an 1/8. Now I want you to offset this circle out 1/16 of an inch. So go to offset, offset distance. You can go 1/16 for 1/16 of an inch, or you can type in 0.0625, which is a 1/16 of an inch also. Enter. Now pick this circle here and come out. So you should have something like that. It looks like a bullseye. This proportion here should be half of this. Because remember, this is an 1/8. Half of an 1/8 is a 1/16. So from there to there is a 1/16. So that's my radius of this circle here. And this should be offset a 1/16. So that distance should equal that distance right there. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to trim this out. So I'm going to go trim, and I'm just going to pick the lines between my two circles right there. Don't pick these other lines, just pick those lines between the two circles. Now I'm going to erase the two circles. And guess what? You have a perfect center line right there. Now, I'm going to teach you the W block command. W block. When you're using a line or a symbol multiple times, you can create a block out of it. Now, the difference between a block and a W block is this. A block can only be used in the current drawing you're working on. A W block can be inserted into any drawing you do of the rest of your life. So we've created this center line here now. We want to create it. We want to save it off as a W block so I can insert it into any drawing. But before I do that, what layer am I on? If you look up here, we've been drawing on our object layer because object is yellow. We want this to be on our center line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a window around it right there. I'm going to come up here to my layer and I'm going to hit center. And now it should turn my center line color. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, now to create a W block, what do you think the command is? W block. So W, and see W is W block. See, it's a shortcut right there. See that first one? So I could hit enter. So we have a couple of things now. There's 3 things we have to do to create a W block. We have to give it a base point. See that little box right there? So we have to pick a point. We have to select the objects, and we have to give it a place to save it. So let's start with the base point. Pick this little icon for pick insertion base point. If you click it, we want the base point to be that center point or the midpoint right there. That makes sense? Click there. Now, let's select objects. Build a window around it so it picks all the lines. Hit enter. So we've selected the lines. Now let's give it a path to save it as. So hit these 3 little dots over here to the right of this path right here. So I'm going to hit those 3 lines right there. And where do you want to save it? I would save it onto your thumb drive. Okay. So if you're at home, you have permission, you can save it to your own desktop. If you are down at the school, do not save it on the desktop because it will not be there when you come the next time. Okay? Or you can save it to your thumb drive. Just remember where you save it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save mine on my desktop. So I'm going to save it right there. And I'm going to call it center line. C-E-N-T, center line. That makes sense? And I'm going to hit save. Okay, and so I've given it a center line. It's saved on my desktop. I picked the base point, and I picked all the objects. Now, hit OK. And you're going to see something flash up here, so just pay attention. See that little box that flashed up there? That means it created your W block. Now, let's see how much faith you have in yourself. We took the time to draw this center line. Let's erase it all now. So E, enter. Okay, so it's gone. So what we're going to do now is we're going to bring it back. We're going to see if the W block really worked. So to do that, you're going to use what's called the insert command. So let's type in insert. You'll also see the insert is right here. So I-N-S-E-R-T, enter. On, where are you? Okay, so I'm going to pull him over here. Come on, why can't I pull him over? There. There. Okay, so here's my center line layer right there. So I'm going to pick that right there. I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to click right there. And then I hit escape. I'm going to close this window out. So there's my center line back. So it worked. Okay, so now remember, this is 1/8 of an inch from here to here. This is a 1/16 inch gap here. Okay. Now, right now, if you put your cursor on any segment of that center line, it's one entity. In order to extend or trim it, we need to explode it. So let's explode it right now. So let's go to the explode command or type in explode. Just pick any segment of that center line, click it, and hit enter. Now, if you put your cursor over it, you can see that they are broken up into 1 to 6 different lines, okay? Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to move this center line here to the center of this first circle, okay? So I'm going to hit M for move. I'm going to build a window around there. I'm going to zoom in here and I want to find that intersection point right at the midpoint right there. And I want to put it, if you come out to the circle and come in, you can see center of that circle right there and click it. Okay, so we just moved that center line that we inserted into our circle right here. Now, one more measurement you need to remember, and we'll review this quite a bit, so don't think you have to memorize it the first time around. A center line, if everything is right, in a perfect world, extends 1/4 of an inch beyond this circle. So these lines come out. Now remember, we just made it for a 1-inch diameter circle only. Any others, we might have to extend it or trim it back. So, but we want this to be 1/4 of an inch. So to do that, I'm going to offset 0.25 for 1/4. I'm going to offset this circle and come out right there. So I'm going to extend these lines out to here. I'm not going to draw new lines. I'm going to extend it. So extend was EX, enter, pick that line there, this line, and that line there. So from here to here is 1/4 of an inch. Now erase this outer circle right there. So that's a perfect textbook center line for you. Now, what we need to do is we need a center line for this circle right here. So I can copy this now over to here, okay? See, I did all my editing on this one center line, so I can copy here so I don't have to edit multiple center lines. So I'm gonna go CO for copy. I'm gonna pick these lines. Now, if I go from left to right, if you notice it has 2 lines that it's picked. The only two, if I go from left to right, it's going to pick any line that is completely included in that rectangle. Now, look what happens if I go from right to left instead of left to right. If I go from right to left now, it picks them all, but only a segment of the line has to be in the box. So that's the difference. Going from left to right, the whole line has to be in it. Going from right to left, only a segment. So remember, left to right, right to left. Okay, so I'm going to pick those right there. So that's all those picked. Now I could individually pick them if I wanted to. It's up to you. So hit enter. Now it's saying specify base point. Well, there's my base point, midpoint there. I'm going to come to the circle, come in here, and there's my center right there. Okay, so there's my center line copied over there. Now I don't have to go and extend these because they're already the right length. Now, one thing I want you to do here to finish up our top view, once we do this, our top view will be completely finished. I have two circles here. How do I know that they're aligned? If I do not connect these center lines up, they could be misaligned a little bit. So what I want to do is I do not want to draw another line here. I'm going to click on one of these lines, either this one or this one. You're going to get three boxes. I'm going to grab the end box and just bring him over to the end point of there, right there. So now they're hooked up together. That means that one dimension is going to control the up and down location of those two holes, okay? And we'll go over this quite a bit, okay? So there's my top view. It's 100% finished, ready for dimensioning with all my layers correct. My lines are on the right layer and everything. But now I have to draw the holes in the front view and the right side view. And I want to show you how easy this is. So to do a hole, first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one hole here first of all. So the side of the hole is a hidden line on each side. Hidden line represents the side of the hole because it's hidden right here. So let's draw us a line now from, now I can go with midpoint. I don't want midpoint. That doesn't make sense. But it just so happens that it is midpoint. Okay. But what I want to do is I want to be quadrant. So QUAD. So now I can go here and it's picking me the quadrant. See, I didn't know that that was exactly halfway on that line. There's only one circle that it'll do that for. So don't trust that. So go from there and just draw a line down to here. And then I'm going to go here, midpoint again. I don't want midpoint. I want to type in QUAD for quadrant. And there's quadrant right there. Okay. So now what I could have done is I could have drawn a line here down and offset that because these are 3/4 of an inch diameter, right? So I could offset each one 3/8 of an inch if I wanted to. Okay, now what I want to do is this hole only goes from here to here. Remember, in this area right here in the center, there's no material for it to go through, so it only goes through this center section here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim out from there to there and from there to there. And then let's erase that and erase that and that right there. Okay. Now, these we have to change to our hidden layer. So let's click both of these right here. And I'm going to go up here and make them hidden right there. You can always pound on the escape key. Now, you might think that you aren't as fast as I am. The only difference between you and me right now at this point is, well, number one, I'm a little more familiar with the command, but I'm not afraid to pound on that key to repeat the command. Once you get to that point, you can repeat commands as fast as I can, and you'll be very, very fast by the end of this class. So we have to put a center line right here. So we gave the sides of the circle right here. Now I have to find, I'm going to copy this vertical center line down to here. But I want the center of here in the dead center of that rectangle. So how am I going to find the midpoint of that rectangle? Excuse me. The easiest way I know it is to draw me a line diagonally across from the end point here to the end point there. So the center point is the midpoint of that line. Does that make sense? So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to go back and use the, see, we haven't done the copy command, have we? Copy. Okay, so let's just start typing copy. So C, copy, the shortcut is CO. C is circle. So CO, enter. It says select objects. I want to pick that one, and that one. So I pick these three vertical lines. I'm finished selecting them, so hit enter. It says now I've got to pick a base point. Well, the base point now is going to be that midpoint right there. There. And I want to copy it down to the midpoint of that line right there and hit enter. So I copied that center line directly to the midpoint. So that center dash is the center of that center dash is at the midpoint of this line right here. So I know that's exactly lined up. Now I can erase this diagonal line. Now remember, when we did these circles here, how far did our center line come out from our object? It was 1/4 of an inch. So we want to be consistent. So this line needs to be 1/4 of an inch beyond here and 1/4 of an inch down here because our hole only goes from here to here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to offset 0.25, which is 1/4 of an inch. There and there. Then I'm going to trim back to that line right there. And then I'm going to erase that line. Remember, I just drew that line to give me 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so there's one of my circles completely finished. Now, I need to go through that whole process 2 more times to get one here and one here. The neat thing about CAD is simplify it. You don't have to redraw it all over again. Remember, we have base points, and we say, where do we want to copy it from this base point to this point here? So I'm going to show you a quick and easy way of doing this. Now, if you get confused with this, maybe you want to draw it by hand and redraw it just for practice. But let's go ahead and show you something. I'm going to copy this, so CO for copy. I'm going to build a window going from left to right. See how it picked just those lines? Hit enter. Now a base point. I'm going to pick this as my base point, this inner midpoint right here. And here is my new one, the midpoint right there. There. I just copied that over to there. There's 2 of them. Okay. Now I've got to get one over here. Now remember, here we project up and down and over, but now to get from here to here, I've got to go around this method here. So what I'm going to do here is I want to find a reference point of one of these endpoints of these lines. So what I'm going to do is we can actually do our center line. Let's do our center line. So I'm going to draw me a line now from this center line over to here, and then from this point here down, okay? That point right there is this point right here, okay? So now I can copy CO. I can copy either one of these now, there, enter. This becomes my base point right here, that intersection point right there, here. And where this center line crosses this line here now becomes my new second point. So now I just have to erase these 2 lines right there. And I've copied that hole in all 3 views. And as a result, my drawing is 100% finished, drawn. Now we get to dimension it, okay? So at this point, I can delete this. I don't need this box anymore. You can see all this box was used for is to transfer from the right to the top or top to the right side view. So let's erase that. Right like that. Okay, now I've got to put my dimensions in there. So we need to spread these views apart. And then I'm going to go through the dimension variables, and then we're going to set dimensions up, and you're going to see how easy it is to finish this drawing up completely. So first of all, I'm just going to move these out. So M for move. I'm going to pick the right side view here, enter. I'm going to pick a point anywhere on my screen and move it apart. Remember, my F8 is on. If I turn F8 off, it gets misaligned. F8 on, it goes back to being aligned. So I'm going to move him out there, space bar. I'm going to pick the top view here, spacebar, pick here, and move him up. So I have some space between my views now to put my dimensions. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the dimension variables for you. Okay, because these are presets for you. And again, we'll do this a couple of times, and then eventually we'll get a template file for you so you never have to do this again. So what I want you to do is to go up to the annotation bar right here. To see annotation, hit the down arrow key. You have four options. We can do our text style, our dimension style, our multi-leader style, or a table style. Okay, so we're going to change our dimension style. So let's go back to annotation here and hit the second icon down, the dimension style. It's going to bring up this window right here. Now, the one thing I will do, by the way, and I don't want to change it right now, is on other videos, I'll move my camera so it's facing directly at me so that you don't think I'm looking off to the side, which I am really. But okay, right here, you can see these variables right here. We want to modify, so go to modify. Okay, there are 7 tabs across the top. Anytime you change a dimension, this is where you're going to change it. I never ever want to see you explode a dimension. There is one case I'll let you, and that's just to grab an arrow for a cutting plane line. But for all purposes, never ever explode a dimension. So let's go through these. So let's start with the lines. Okay, so lines are broken into dimension lines and extension lines. Okay, this right here, that line right there is an extension line. The line with the dimension in it is a dimension line. Pretty simple, isn't it? Okay, the only thing you need to remember now on this is right here. There's a little gap right there where the extension line starts. The extension line does not end on the object line. And then the extension line goes beyond the dimension line a certain distance from there to there. Okay, now offset from origin should be a 1/16 of an inch, which is right, 0.0625. Extend beyond dimension line, which is this section right here, should be 1/8 of an inch. So I want you to change that number right there to 1/8 of an inch, which is 0.125. Okay, that's all you need to do to change this first one. Okay, let's go to, and you can play with these others. So see where I suppress dimension line? If I submit dimension 1, see part of the dimension line goes away. If I suppress one of my extension lines, one of my extension lines go away. That lets you know which is an extension line and what is a dimension line. Okay, now go to symbols and arrows. Okay, the only thing you need to worry about right here is our arrow size. We want our arrow size to be 1/8 of an inch. So change that 0.18 to 0.125. If you remember 0.125 and an eighth, 0.125, which is an eighth, and a 1/16 of an inch, you're pretty close to having everything taken care of you need. So our arrow size is 1/8 of an inch. Okay, that's all we need to do, except for one thing. When you add a radius, it's going to put a center mark in here. We've already generated a perfect center line. So on center mark, I want you to click on none. So I don't want it to add that in because that's going to interfere with your perfect center line that you've already made and inserted into your drawing. Okay, let's go to the next one. Let's go to text. Our text height right here should be 1/8 of an inch. So change that to 0.125, just like that. Okay, the other thing that I want you to change is this offset from dimension line, which is that little gap right there. I want you to change it to 0.05 instead of 0.9, 0.05, okay? That's all I want you to change on the text tab. Now, we'll get into these and play with these a little later, but we're just doing the bare necessity to get our dimension variable set up to dimension this drawing. Let's go to fit. Okay, now right here, there's a little thing. It says right here, if there isn't enough room to place both the text and arrows inside extension lines, the first thing to move outside the extension line is either the text or arrow, whatever fits the best. Now, I don't know about you, but there's no way I want a computer to tell me what fits the best. Okay, the computer can do a lot of calculations, but he cannot tell me what fits better and what looks better. Okay, you are better than the computer on that. So click on arrows because we want the arrows to go on the outside, and if possible, we want our text to be in between. Okay. Okay, now, right now we have a scale factor here. We're going to play with this on a different drawing, not on this drawing. We don't need to. Let's go to primary units. Okay, right now our primary units is decimal, and that's what it is. And if you look at the drawing right here, our decimal place is 2 decimal places on the drawing. So right now it has a precision of 4 decimal places right here. So hit the down arrow key and let's hit 2. So now it has 2 decimal places instead of 4 decimal places. Okay, now we can get rid of 0. See the 0 suppression? See that radius 0.80? That's a leading 0. So leading 0, let's suppress it. See where that 0 went away? We're going to keep our trailing 0 because of significant numbers, okay? We can get rid of the leading 0, okay? And here's another one of those scale factors that we'll talk a little bit about later. Now, that's all we're going to do for right now, but here we have alternate units. We can actually give metric and English units. Here, we're going to apply some tolerances. Later on, we'll apply tolerances, and I'll show you how to use that one. But anyway, for right now, just hit OK, and then set current and close. Okay, so we've gone through and set up all of our variables. Now let's dimension this drawing and be finished with it. So the first feature we did was this notch right here, wasn't it? We offset this a half, and down a half, right? So we need those 3 dimensions on the front view. They don't go in the other views because, number one, I couldn't put it over here because one of the rules for dimensioning is never, ever, ever, unless you have to, dimension to a hidden line. That is a hidden line. But we want to dimension it in the view that shows it true size and shape. Now our first dimension, we want to be a ½ inch away from our object. I'm going to show you how to get that. So let's go to linear dimension up here. See where it says linear? Click on that. I want to go from here to here. I'm going to hesitate and see endpoint. I'm going to come up here and type in 0.5. And it offset that a ½ inch away. Pretty simple, isn't it? Now, I need to have a ½ inch from here to here, right? So I hit the space bar, and then I'm going to go from there to there. Now here, I can line him up with this right here. See how I have my cursor coming over here? So that dimension is exactly in line there. Everything you do, you want your first dimension to be the same distance away on all your views. Now what we need to do is we need to give the depth. Now, if at all possible, put your dimensions between the views instead of on the outside of the views. If it fits better on the outside, put it on the outside. But this one could go either here or here. We'll never put it here because I don't want you to ever use an object line as an extension line. So now we're going to go back to linear. I'm going to pick this point here and this point here. I'm going to hesitate till I see the end point, then I'm going to come over here, 0.5. That's a ½ inch away. So guess what? There's our first feature dimensioned. That's as simple as it is. So we're a third of the way finished with dimensioning. Now, our next feature was this notch right here, wasn't it? So we offset a half, and offset a half to do that. But again, I'm not going to do it here because that's a hidden line. This shows the features, true size and shape, so that's where all my dimensions go. So let's go ahead now and do a linear. I'm going to go from here to here, hesitate, come down, 0.5. Okay, space bar, I'm going to go from here to here, and I'm going to line him up with there. So those are exactly in line. spacebar. Now I'm going to pick spacebar again. Let's go back to linear. I'm going to pick here to here, hesitate, come over here, 0.5. I have to hesitate for it to get the snap up so it can register so it knows where it's going a ½ inch from. If I just hurry and pick it, it might not give me a ½ inch. So I have to just take a pause for a millisecond right there. Guess what? That's feature number 2 dimension. That's the measurements that we had to draw that with. Okay, let's go to feature number 3, which is our holes. So we have to give a dimension from here to here, and from here to here, and from here to here, and then a diameter of that circle. So again, let's go to linear. I'm going to pick here. Now that ½ inch comes from the second point you pick. So if I picked here and here, it would be a ½ inch from this, which would be about right in here. Well, I wanted a ½ inch from here. So I'm going to pick this one, hesitate, come over here, 0.5. Does that make sense? So it's a ½ inch from the second point you pick. So I'm 0.125 up. Now I've got to come from here over is where we did it. Now, this is where you might say, well, I think it's going to be better from here to here for me to inspect. You can change it if you want to. So I'm going to pick from here down to this point, hesitate, come down here, 0.5. Okay, so from here to here is 1.75. Now from here to here is a ½ inch, so I'm going to do space bar, and I'm going to go from here to here, and then I'm going to hook up to that endpoint right there. So I've located my 2 circles right there. Okay, now we have to give the diameter of that, which is a liter. Okay, so again, this is a dimension line, this is an extension line. A center line becomes a dimension line because it's just one of the 4 dimension lines. So I'm going to create a liter coming out of here. So to do that, I'm going to go to the linear, the down arrow, and create a diameter because we want to drill it, right? And you usually specify a drill with a diameter. If you went down and brought a drill bit, you wouldn't buy a radius drill bit, would you? You'd look for the diameter, okay? So hit diameter, pick this circle here, and just accept it. So it wouldn't move my dimension on the outside, would it? So I'm going to just accept that. Now, I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to go back in now and grab that. Now you see those 3 boxes on there? I'm going to drag the center box out. Now I can't move it around, so I'm going to hit F8. See, now I can. I'm going to come down here. See how that kind of lines up right there? And I'm going to click there. Okay, so this is a liter right here. It's a diameter 0.75. But now I have to tell it 2 times because there's 2 holes here. So to do that, all I have to do is I'm going to double click on the dimension right there. And then I'm going to try to get my cursor right. Come on here. Okay, I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to hit 2X, Shift X space. Hit escape, and yes. So there's 2 times. So that should be a capital X. Let's see, Shift X. Come on here. Capital locks, Shift X. There we go. Okay, so I have 2 times diameter, 0.75. All your text should be uppercase, no lowercase. Okay, so I dimensioned my features in the view that shows the feature true size and shape and how we drew it. Okay, now to finish this up, we have to put 3 more dimensions on the drawing. Our height, width, and depth. Okay, Now, where do we put our height, width, and depth? First of all, we could put our width right here, 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 or here. That gives us all 5. So I already have dimensions here, so I would say either on top or on the bottom. Now, I'm going to recommend we do it on the bottom because I already have dimensions coming down here. Okay, it's just a preference. So let's go to a linear dimension. I'm going to go from here to here, come down here, and I want to line him up with here because these are my ½ inch away. So I don't have to go back and type in a ½ inch away anymore. Okay, now I've got to give the height. So I could put the height here, 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 or out here. Now, to me, it doesn't make sense to put it here or here because I've already, I might interfere with some of these. So I would say out here or out here, either one. Okay, and at this point, what I'd probably do is I'd probably start adding up my dimensions. I got 1, 2, 3, 4 in the front. I've got 3 on the right side. So I'm going to do my height right here. Okay, if you do your height right here, that's not wrong, but I'm going to do my height right here. So linear from here to here, hesitate, come out here, 0.5. Okay, so there's my height. Now I need my depth. I could put my depth down here if I wanted to. I could put it right here. I could put it right here, or I could put it right here. That will show me my depth on everything, right? Okay, so now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've got equal. And so really, I can't use that as a determining factor. So I just have to say, where do I want it the best? Where would it work the best? So I look at this and say, I would probably put it right here. Okay, so I'm going to do a linear there to there, come up and hook him up with that right there. Okay, so at this point, your drawing is 100% finished. Now, what I'd like to do now is, this is as far as I want you to go on this drawing. Now, I will give you another drawing to practice on. Okay, but you can use the exact same steps. And if you use the same layers count and everything else, then you'll be just fine. So hopefully this has helped you out a little bit. I'm going to try to post this video on YouTube now, and hopefully it will work fine. If it does, then videos become very easy to make, and I can start making videos right and left for you. And I'll try to do as many as I possibly can for you. Okay, so I will see you in class tomorrow morning or Friday, or give me a call if you have problems, but try this on your own. But if you have any problems, don't stress out over it. Let's sit down and kind of go over it and solve any problems right off the bat. Okay, so I'm going to close this for now. I'm going to stop my recording and post it. Okay, so have a good night. Talk to you later. Bye.